Hello friends. After reviewing the different refrigerants being used at different applications, we would be interested in knowing what makes a particular refrigerant a good refrigerant. In short, what are the properties should be looked into while selecting a refrigerant? So one of the important crucial property of refrigerant is the thermodynamic category of property. So what we would be planning here in this lecture is we would be discussing thermodynamic properties. In other words, we would be familiarizing ourselves with the properties from a thermodynamic perspective, helping us to select a refrigerant. So the outcome expected from this lecture is that after studying these properties, you get an idea of how to select a refrigerant for a particular application and why are those properties very relevant influencing the performance of the systems. As we said, the choice of refrigerant would depend upon the capacity, the tonnage of refrigeration system, and the other equally important parameter is the refrigerating temperature. What I mean is that uh, if you if you want to select a refrigerant for an air conditioning system, the temperatures which are encountered are around 5 degrees centigrade. And on the other scale, let us say a food freezing application we are talking about, there we are aiming for minus 40 degrees centigrade. So obviously, a refrigerant which is to be selected for air conditioning system for giving the evaporator temperature of about 5 degrees centigrade would be different from the refrigerant which is to be selected for a food freezing application. So this gives us an idea that a refrigerating temperature is an important parameter on which a refrigerant is selected. The other is the capacity, and the capacity is especially because when we talk about capacities, large capacity systems generally we would find centrifugal chillers are used, and for a very small capacity systems, scroll compressors are used, scroll chillers are used. There is a way of uh, classifying the capacities. Like for example, this is not a very hard and fast classification, but one might say that if the tonnage is greater than 400 tr, we would have a large capacity system, large chiller has to be installed. And if the capacity is, let us say, less than 200 tr, we would say it is a small capacity system. And in the medium range, we would say about 200 to 400 tr would be the place where maybe screw chillers are more suitable. Okay, we know that in household refrigerators we have very small capacity compressors, hermetically sealed compressors, which are used. Okay, so in household refrigerators, in air conditioners, in chillers, what are the properties which are important for selecting the refrigerant, and which refrigerants make a good fit, okay, in that applications this has to be looked into. So one of the very important property, thermodynamic property, which has to be kept in mind is the normal boiling point. So normal boiling point is the temperature at which the refrigerant would boil, provided the pressure is the normal atmospheric pressure. So that is the reason why it is called as a normal boiling point. The other important property, thermodynamic property, is the freezing point. Evaporator pressure and condenser pressure, that is, they are known as working pressures. These are very relevant when you select a refrigerant. Uh, Proper selection of a refrigerant, a proper normal boiling point would ensure that the corresponding evaporator pressure and condenser pressure are also in range. Another parameter which is related again to the evaporator pressure and condenser pressure is the ratio of condenser pressure to the evaporator pressure, and that how it is important is to be discussed in this lecture. Critical point, you all know, is the point where the it's on the vapor dome. We can locate a critical point, and you know that the saturated liquid line and saturated gas line on the vapor dome, they meet at the peak, and that peak point is called as a critical point. How is it important? That we will be discussing in a while. Discharge temperature is the temperature at the discharge of the compressor. So what should be the proper discharge temperature? What should be the appropriate value of this discharge temperature is to be discussed in this lecture. And finally, an important thermodynamic property called as suction vapor volume would influence in the selection of the refrigerant. So these properties, normal boiling point, freezing point, the ratio PC upon P, critical point, discharge temperature, and suction vapor volume, and these would be discussed. As I said, the most important property influencing all other properties also is the normal boiling point. And that, why is that so? Because refrigerant basically absorbs the latent heat during phase change, and this temperature has to be lower than the ambient temperature, because that is what is the refrigeration system, right? So we need to ensure that the boiling point has to be lower than the ambient temperature, and that becomes a critical factor. As I said, depending upon the normal boiling point, we would fit a particular refrigerant to a particular application. If the normal boiling point is not that low, then we need to operate the system under vacuum if you want to achieve refrigeration. For example, water is used as a refrigerant in absorption machines, and water, has a boiling point, normal boiling point of 100 degrees centigrade. So if we want the vapor absorption system to use water as a refrigerant, then we need to maintain the system, especially the evaporator, under vacuum, so that we would get the water boiling at a lower temperature. So in order that the system does not operate in vacuum, and then because if it operates in vacuum, then there would be a headache of leakage, we need to ensure that the refrigerant would have a boiling point which should be lower, below the ambient temperature. So that is the most important aspect of normal boiling point. So get you an idea about how it is important, let us look again at the applications which we talked about. So in refrigerators, you know that earlier it was R12 or CFC12, dichloro-difluoromethane, as a refrigerant. And the normal boiling point, if you look at it, it is minus 29.8. And now you know that instead of R12, we would now be using, we use HFC 134, R134A, which is tetrafluoroethane. And look at the normal boiling point of tetrafluoroethane. So that point is closer to the normal boiling point of R12. So the refrigerant which is replacing R12, tetrafluoroethane, also has a similar normal boiling point, which is minus 26 degrees centigrade. Some advanced countries like Europe, they use hydrocarbons as a refrigerant. And even in India now, we are having hydrocarbons as a refrigerant being used in the refrigerators, a small quantity. That they also have a negative normal boiling point. So for example, isobutane R600A has a normal boiling point of minus 11.67, which is much below the atmospheric temperature. Similarly, propane R290 has a normal boiling point of minus 42.1 degrees centigrade. So all the refrigerants which are used in the refrigerators would have a negative normal boiling point and closer to minus 29.8 degrees centigrade, which was the normal boiling point of the conventional refrigerant, which is now banned, that is CFC12. Similarly, if you look into the split air conditioning system as well as car air conditioning system, you know that the refrigerant now which is being used is R22, which is nothing but dichloro-monofluoromethane. It's a methane derivative, and its normal boiling point is minus 40.81 degrees centigrade. You know that this dichloro-monofluoromethane has been phased out in United States, and in India also it would be phased out by 2030. So the refrigerants which are replacing this, or which would be replacing R22 in the future, okay, and is being used in developed countries as the replacement now. They are R410A, which is a blend of R32 and R125. And look at the normal boiling point. So that normal boiling point is again minus 51.44 degree centigrade. Okay. R32, which is dichloromethane, and R125, which is pentafluoroethane, that combination gives you the blend of R410A. And look at this, the normal boiling point is minus 51. R32 also has a similar normal boiling point, which is minus 51.8. Car air conditioning systems, they use R134A now, and the normal boiling point of the refrigerant in car AC is minus 26 degrees centigrade. So in air conditioning systems, if you just want to generalize it in a small capacity air conditioning systems, you will find that the refrigerant has a range of normal boiling point closer to minus 26 to minus 40, minus 50 degrees centigrade, this way. In chillers, depending upon the different chillers, you know that the different refrigerants are used, and that selection also depends upon the normal boiling point. For example, conventionally R11, CFC11, which is a trichloromethane, it's a methane derivative, had a normal boiling point of 23.7 degrees centigrade. The refrigerant which is replacing and which has already replaced this R11 is R123, which is HCFC 123, dichlorotrifluoroethane. It has got a similar boiling point, which is 27.82 degrees centigrade. Okay, so in centrifugal chillers, which has a capacity of about 300 tons to 4,000 tons, and is manufactured by a number of manufacturers like Train, Carrier, and Blue Star, you would find that the normal boiling point is about 27 degrees centigrade plus. You often find that R134A, which is having a negative normal boiling point, is also used in centrifugal chillers nowadays. In screw chillers, a chlorine-free refrigerant, which is R134A, HFC134A, is commonly used. And the tetrafluoroethane has the normal boiling point of minus 26 degrees centigrade. So look at this. We had looked into the different chillers, the screw chillers, the centrifugal chillers, and even, for example, in the scroll chillers, you would find that negative value of the normal boiling point, which is about minus 40.81, is the normal boiling point of the refrigerant which is being used. Okay, so the conventional refrigerant now in the scroll chiller is R22 HCFC22 dichloromonofluoromethane, which has a normal boiling point of minus 40, and the replacements also, for example, R410A, which is a blend of R32 and R125, also has a normal boiling point closer to that value. That value is minus 51.44. The blend, which is R407C, which is a blend of R32, R125, and R134A, also has a range of boiling points in the similar range we are talking about. So one important thing is that the normal boiling, desirable property of refrigerant should be, it should have a very low normal boiling point, and depending upon the normal boiling point, generally the refrigerant is selected. The other important property is the freezing point. It is but logical to understand that freezing point should be well below the evaporator temperature. If it is not well below the evaporator temperature, then the refrigerant would freeze. For example, you know that R22, which has a normal boiling point of minus 40.7 degrees centigrade, has a freezing point much lower than minus 40. And how much is that? That is minus 160 degrees centigrade. So it won't freeze. Similarly, ammonia, which boils at minus 33.4 degrees centigrade, has a freezing point of minus 77.8 degrees centigrade. So we can go much below, and we would ensure that it does not freeze even at temperatures which are closer to minus 33.4 degrees centigrade. So it is important that the freezing point should be well below the evaporator temperature. That is a desirable feature of the refrigerant. The condenser pressure and evaporator pressure, these are decided again by the normal boiling point. And how are they decided? They are decided because of the temperature range. For example, the evaporator operating at 5 degrees centigrade and the condenser operating at 40 degrees centigrade would have a corresponding saturation pressure of the evaporator and condenser, and that has to be decided by the normal boiling point. So what are the desirable features? So one very important thing about evaporator pressure is that the evaporator pressure should be slightly above the atmospheric pressure. And why is that so? Because if it is not above the atmospheric pressure, then that would lead to vacuum, and a vacuum would lead to leakage. If it is much more above the atmospheric pressure, then also there is a chance of leakage. Okay, so it has to be maintained above atmospheric pressure, but slightly above the atmospheric pressure. The condenser pressure has to be lower. Okay, lower because if we have very high pressure condensers, then we need to have a sturdy construction, a robust construction, and that would be a costly affair. Okay, so a desirable feature of condenser pressure should be that the refrigerant should give us within the working temperature range. The evaporator pressure should be above atmospheric pressure, and the condenser pressure should be low enough. Okay, so as to avoid the robust construction. This important ratio, PC upon PE, has to be clearly understood. As I said, the working pressures are decided by the temperatures which we are aiming for. For example, if you want to maintain a temperature of 5 degrees centigrade in the evaporator and 40 degrees centigrade in the condenser, and suppose we use R12 as the refrigerant, which was used earlier, right? So in that case, with R12, the evaporator pressure is 3.62 bar, the saturation pressure, okay, for maintaining 5 degrees centigrade. And the condenser pressure for maintaining 40 degrees centigrade in the condenser, the pressure has to be 9.6 bar. Okay, so that gives us the ratio PC by PE ratio as 2.65. But no, you now know that R12 is replaced by R134A. So if we use R134A now, the corresponding pressure, you see that evaporator pressure is 3.5 and the condenser pressure is 10.11. So if you take a ratio now, you see that the PC by PE ratio has increased. So this is a disadvantage. Means if you are replacing R134A, if you are replacing R12 with R134A, the pressure ratio has increased, and because the pressure ratio has increased, the compressor work would increase, and the compressor work would increase. It means that the electricity consumption, the power consumption is going to increase. So it is not desirable, but sometimes it is unavoidable to have a higher pressure ratio. Okay, so what is the desirable feature? The desirable feature is that the condenser pressure to the evaporator pressure should be low. So in this case, from the perspective of PC by PE ratio, R12 is more desirable, but R12 is banned because it is a CFC. So unfortunately, we have to use R134A with a higher PC by PE ratio. Critical point. We all know that critical point is the point C in the diagram. And let us say that the critical point is C and the condenser pressure is closer to C. So if the condenser pressure is closer to C, then the ratio of condenser pressure, you see that the vapor dome goes on tapering, okay, tapering, and that would give us a lower value of latent heat. So we know that the latent heat has to be higher so that the mass of the refrigerant is kept lower, okay, and the mass of the refrigerant has to be kept lower in order to reduce the power consumption. So how is that possible? So that is possible only by separating the condenser pressure line away from the critical point. So if you separate the condenser pressure line away from the critical point, if the critical point is much higher than the if the critical point is much higher than the condensing temperature, then we would get good results in the sense that we would require less mass of the refrigerant. Okay, so it is important for us to understand that the critical point has to be well above the condensing temperature, and this is very obvious if you look at the vapor dome and the separation from the of this line from the condenser point. Another important parameter is the discharge temperature. As we discussed earlier, discharge temperature is the discharge of the compressor. So if the discharge temperature is higher, the compressor motor gets hotter, and that is not desirable. So we'll have to cool it faster, right? And if the discharge temperature is higher, and if you don't maintain proper cooling, then the life of the compressor is affected. For example, R22 has higher discharge temperature than R134A, right? So if we are using R22, the compressors, the systems which are using R22, for example, split AC systems, they would have a lower life as compared to the systems which are using R134A. So a very good example is car AC systems. Car AC systems, nowadays they are using R134A, and R134A is having lower discharge temperature, so car AC systems are doing better, right? You will find that R22 systems, the warranty which the manufacturers offer to the consumers, it is lower. The reason is because R22 has a higher discharge temperature. The refrigerators which are using R134A, they are also having a higher warranty because R134A has a low discharge temperature. So what is desirable is that the discharge temperature should be as low as possible. In central AC systems which are using R123 as a refrigerant, the discharge temperature is lower, and that is a good feature. So to summarize, we would say that the critical point should be much higher above the condensing temperature, and discharge temperature should be as low as possible. The suction vapor volume would decide the type of the chiller. We would do a separate lecture on the selection of the chillers, but just note that if the refrigerant is a high boiling point, like say R134A, then it would have a larger suction volume, and then it would be suitable for a centrifugal chiller. On the other hand, if it is having a lower boiling point, like say ammonia, and R22, then it would lead to lower suction volumes. And if it is the lower suction volumes, then we would have to go for a smaller capacity chillers like screw chillers. R134A is usually found in the middle range. It has got a suction volume in the median range, not that low and not that high. Okay, so suction volume would decide upon the chiller selection, and that discussion is very interesting. In the next lecture of ours, we would be discussing other which important properties which are important in selection of the refrigerant. What are those? They are the chemical properties like toxicity, flammability, and the environmental considerations like ozone depletion potential, global warming potential, and total equivalent warming impact. To summarize, what we have discussed in this lecture is we have discussed the thermodynamic properties of the refrigerant, and we have seen what thermodynamic properties are to be looked into for proper selection of refrigerant in the practicing systems.